Hello, friends and members. As many of you know, the Sunday Service Committee, supported by the board, has decided to return to doing remote services. We felt it was necessary just with the rise in the Delta variant to make sure that everybody was safe and everybody was well taken care of. So for the time being, we will be doing our traditional, I guess it's become traditional over the past year or so, um, Saturday night releases of the services, and then Sunday morning discussions starting at 11:15 for sign-in, 11:30 to start the discussions. There is a announcement from the UUA, which I've been asked to include in this week's service. So here's that for you. Thank you very much.
Greetings, dear ones. This past year has been incredibly intense and difficult. The uncertainty, the fear, the losses, the deep pain of this COVID-19 pandemic has been immeasurable. Our congregations have made real sacrifices, shifting from in-person gatherings to online services, all in an effort to keep one another, our neighbors, and our wider community safe and well. I know the real sacrifice and loneliness of not being able to gather in person. I miss singing together, breaking bread in community, gathering in people's homes, and visiting my own parents and siblings. There is real loss and pain right now, so much of it. At the same time, I have witnessed a remarkable blossoming in many of our UU communities. There's an increased focus right now on community care, equity, inclusion, and interdependence in how we approach our ministry, both within and across our congregations. Because of how quickly we moved online, there is an unprecedented access to our ministry. Leaders are asking innovative questions about membership, participation, and ongoing virtual community now that participation is not bound to buildings or physical locations. And there is good news right now with multiple vaccines in distribution. Many of us are beginning to think about how and when we might return to in-person gatherings. As we contemplate this, it matters that our UU values continue to guide our decision-making. Our principles, the core theological values we affirm and promote, both challenge and guide us. We cherish each individual as inherently worthy and deserving of dignity. We recognize that we are inextricably interconnected in a web of relationship with all people and all life. No one's life is expendable. And while it has always been true, this pandemic has brought into stark relief the fact that our choices impact others, even those we do not know and will never meet. Therefore, it matters that we continue to center compassion, care, public health, and resilience for everyone, especially people who are most vulnerable to COVID-19. This means that our congregations are likely to wait longer to resume in-person operations than other entities. Take, for example, schools. We all understand the vital priority of trying to support schools being able to open safely. However, to do this, we all have a role to play in lowering community spread. There will always be people who are willing and able to take greater risks when it comes to the virus. But beyond any one individual or what one individual desires, our decisions regarding how and whether to regather must be rooted in our core value of protecting the lives of people who are most at risk and most at risk of severe complications from this virus. It matters that our commitment to inclusion and to deep care guide our decisions such that no one is left out. folks who are at high risk, and those who live with someone who is high risk, and those essential workers who have to take greater risks every day, many of them have already been living on the emotional edge for months. Let us use our institutional power and our power as moral leaders in our community to relieve their stress, not increase it. Let us never put an already weary, already vulnerable member of our community in the painful position of having to ask our congregations to value their life. We are called to hold fast to our principles, to hold fast to our first and seventh principle, to live in the dynamic intersection of the inherent worth of every person and the interdependent web into which we are all born. When this pandemic is over, even with all of its painful and devastating losses, may we be able to say as Unitarian Universalists that we did all we could to support the health of one another, the health of our neighbors and communities, that we did our part to save lives, to affirm life.
At this time in our service, we're going to open the service by lighting our beautiful chalice. Our chalice lighting words for today are entitled Connected Through the Web of Life and by Jennifer Grayson. They are, we light this chalice, symbol of our purpose to bring love and justice into the world. We light this chalice knowing our congregation as a church is dispersed across communities and not bound by walls, but we know we are connected to each other through the web of life. Opening words for today are similar to the lighting. The title is Feel That, the author, Gwen Matthews. Feel that. Each breath, each inhale, each exhale. We are living, breathing, connected. We are the whole, complete selves that we were born to be. Feel that in your bones, in your muscles, in your heart, and in your blood. Feel that. The you who was born for this time, this place, this moment. Feel that. Feel, too, the struggle, the worry, the pain, the loss, the grief. It is still you. You are still whole, complete, beautiful, extraordinary. Feel all that. It is with considerable pleasure that I now get to introduce our sermon presenter for today, Michelle Avante. Michelle brings us so much talent and so much knowledge. You know, she's a metaphysician. She's a certified astrology professor. She's an astrologer. She's a minister. She's an author. She's a professional artist. She's taught metaphysics. She's published. She's been on thousands of radio shows, if you can imagine that, and managed to, along the way, collect 2 degrees in fine arts and photography illustration. If you have never visited her website, I would encourage you to do so. There's some of the most beautiful work there I have ever seen. Michelle's also been honored by her peers for several awards that she's won for juvenile fiction. So if there are children, you might want to check out Greehey, The Journey of Five, and a few other things. Michelle lives in Southern Oregon, about a block and a half from me, with her husband, 4 dogs, 2 cats, and a whole lot of fish. She's excited to be with us today, and we welcome her now.
Hi, everyone. We're going to take a moment and do a little meditation before we get into our talk. So if you'll just sit quietly, take a deep breath. Feel the energy coming into your body. Find yourself relaxing. And if you listen, you'll hear a tinkling sound off in the distance. It's a sound like chimes. And the wind brings it closer to you every time you breathe. Breathe in and feel this wonderful breeze of the universe embrace you. As you feel it get closer and surround you with light, you'll notice the sound of chimes is really the sound of magnificent voices speaking to who you are. They're angels, guides, your ancestors. Magnificent, that's what they call you. Courageous. They're so proud of you. Feel the joy that they are sharing with you. You're surrounded by love. There is nothing to feel upset about. They want you to know you're protected. You're safe. You're free to take action. You're free to make change. You're free to look and love and experience all that is around you. Allow yourself to absorb the love that they're sharing with you. Know they're with you every instant of every day. You're always surrounded by them. You may forget, but if you just ask, they'll remind you. Feel that joy that comes from them because they know that you are on the right path. You are making the right choices. And they're always there to help you find your way. No matter what the outside world seems to say, no matter how erratic it becomes, you are always loved. You are always embraced by beings you can't necessarily see, but they never leave you. Take this in. Let it become part of you. Feel their embrace. And remember, you are so much more than what you see in the mirror. Come back and let's begin. The world right now is in such a challenging place. When we look into the screens that are everywhere, what we see is a world of chaos. And you may be questioning what's really going on. Where are we on the clock of creation? Where are we in time? We are at a turning point in consciousness for humanity. We are breaking down the patriarchy that has dominated through aggression, war, and money, while subjecting anyone who is not a white male to bondage or a lower class. That has been the accepted, comfortable consciousness for over 4,000 years, ever since men began making weapons from iron. 2,000 years ago, the man named Jesus activated a shift in awareness, teaching that caring for another as a brother should replace the Old Testament's vengeful consciousness of an eye for an eye. Today, we are at a full turning point, a doorway to cooperation over competition, ideas and community over individual superiority through wealth, power, and fame. To uproot those in control takes a transformation so pervasive that nothing we have come to expect to be stable can be. Much like a tornado churning through a town, lifting houses, exposing foundations, and destroying the old in its wake, we are each experiencing chaos, which breeds fear and depression. This time has no recorded roadmap, just big red flags that pop up along the way, urging us to take action. Why are we here? What has brought us to a space where the moral compass of a nation is split or maybe broken? Is there hope? Will we come through this storm with the ability to build something new, better, and more comfortable for everyone? And will we finally wave goodbye to the patriarchy and become an all-inclusive humanity? How long will it take? And more importantly, what do we need to do to avoid fear and depression and instead find balance in this chaotic storm? In my own life, I find that understanding what is happening around me and how it activates inside me helps me to plan actions to find balance and peace. So I want to take you on a path where we can look at what is happening around us. Let's examine what is driving waves of low vibrations, which plummet some into an abyss of fear and depression. When we understand what forces surround us, we can recognize that it is more than words said randomly that shake us. It's more than frustration with technology or isolation due to the pandemic. It's more than the fear that our democracy may turn to an autocracy, making the patriarchy even stronger. There is so much more driving mass vibrations to the bottom of the scale. We need to recognize what is not plainly visible, so we can find our footing in the waves of chaos that surround us at this time in history. Yes, there are many factors in each human being that create different responses to the chaos. But the actual electrical waves are key to the physical response, which sometimes can override logic and even our ability to hear spiritual guidance. As I look across this time in creation, I see a confluence of barely noticeable changes, 1,000 tiny tweaks that slowly remove the norms we thought were still there. So let us take a look at what I see are the key changes. It centers around breaking down norms and incoming waves which activate the mind and body. In the last few centuries, media centered around the written word, from flyers to newspapers, little posters they would put up everywhere. Newspapers contained advertising to support their bottom line. Overall, there was a clear-cut understanding that the news would be based on facts, while advertising would show us what is available in the marketplace. Advertisers worked hard to convince the public to buy their products, and snake oil salesmen, as well as real estate fraud, might be found on these advertising pages. But the norm held for centuries was that news would be based on facts. Journalism had a code of ethics. Of course, there were cases where omission and editorial slant broke the rules, yet overall the norms of fact-based news held. These norms continued through the era of radio. But as we entered the 50s, the changes began. Now, we were no longer using either visual or auditory means to get information, but now we could both see and hear on one screen. This began a whole new level of brain activation. It is during this decade of the 50s, that millions of Americans began watching television. In 1952, a study began that would be the basis for a huge shift in norms. In that year, two psychologists, William Edmund Hick and Ryan Hyman, began researching the connection between stimulus and an individual's reaction time to it. This innocent study became known as the psychology of design. It opened doors for advertising agencies to better engage the viewer and would quickly be used by casinos for designing their interiors and their slot machines. This activated a whole new level of control on people's response, and it began what I call the art of activating addiction. Companies looking to expand their bottom line would use it to keep people engaged, mesmerized with brain fog, and thus get them to give up their money more easily. The normal interaction between buyer and seller had just added a new control to the seller's arsenal. As the internet developed, browsers would be designed through psychological studies of how to keep a person engaged and how to get them to give up their money. Pornography jumped on these studies and created whole online worlds to keep a person on their sites. Then, of course, Facebook came along, Twitter, Instagram, and the numerous other sites that now clutter the net. All of these have expanded the studies of stimulation of the human brain through color, shape, movement, and sound for the purpose of causing the individual viewer to stay on their page longer, respond to the information, and hopefully purchase whatever they're selling. Underlying the psychology of design is the understanding that powerful emotions create powerful responses. When you watch a commercial, see if you can determine what emotions the ad company is trying to evoke in you. Fear that you'll be rejected in love because of your breath, your clothing, your electronics, your hair, your face, your skin. It goes on. The gentler commercials are educating and evoking goodwill. Those are the ones we love, like the one with Walter the cat. If you haven't seen it, Google it. While Chevy is selling the latest features on their truck, they use a cat herding cattle and racing off a pier to fetch a stick to get you to smile, laugh, and wonder what is possible. This opens your mind and causes you to welcome the pitch. This is one of the most effective interweaving of emotions and messaging I've seen. But over 90% of all advertising is based on fear. With changes in marketing expanding through psychological studies and two generations raised on television, the 90s were primed for a switch to occur. The idiom, divide and conquer, is key to the era of patriarchy and another path that has taken us to this chaotic turning point. Though this statement has been used by generals in military strategies, it has become the most potent method to create money through media disguised as news. Roger Ailes, a man who began his life with many fears due to his health issues, realized by the 70s that as fear had motivated his life, he could manipulate the lives of others to his advantage by using this tactic. A man of little moral conscience, he set this as the directive when he became the CEO of Fox News in 1996. Instead of earning viewers by the media he produced, he broke that norm and paid cable distributors as much as $20 per subscriber to gain a foothold in 20 million homes. He then kept them watching by activating their fears. The monetization of fear has been enormous in taking journalism from an ethical base to one of conspiracy theories and disinformation. My mention of this has absolutely nothing to do with political sides, but rather to factually explain the seeds that have grown into an extremely divided country. It has been divided not so much by our basic differences, but by the lies accepted as truth by over 170 million people through one network. Of course, that expanded far beyond the network across the internet. And it's been held by those who oppose this nation by feeding even further on the fears. In addition to the breaking of norms, the hijacking of news strangled with outright lies, and the addicting factors of internet communications, our continuous bombardment of human organisms by unhealthy electrical waves causes mental fog and logic to fail. Our bodies naturally vibrate to the beat of the planet. We were actually designed to be the crown chakra of this planet. It's no wonder that the earth becomes more violent each year. If you had a fogged up or blocked crown chakra, how would you feel? It would not be good. The flow of energy comes into each of us, including the planet, through our crown chakras. Yes, the planet does have some vortexes and spin points it can depend on to help it balance. But we are over 7.5 billion beings activating this planet, and we have allowed ourselves to be embedded in an electrical tsunami. With each person using a cell phone day and night, we add to the imbalance of our planet, as well as the imbalance of our own bodies. The electrical imbalance of humanity must change to make this transition to a new consciousness. This imbalance changes the natural vibration of the human form. Think of a clock. It has a mechanism that causes it to count time accurately. If you change the energy pattern that activates that clock, making it erratic, it can no longer tell time properly. That is what we have been doing to our bodies with the electrical waves we use through numerous devices every day. For some people, they only put them down when they go to sleep. These electrical waves have been linked to depression and loss of direction in human beings. Much like a compass depends on the magnetic field of the earth to show correct directions, humans depend on the vibration of the earth to maintain balance. The electrical pull of devices is very real. It is not only the feeling that you must be connected, must not miss a call, must interact quickly to compete and be seen, but much like a plug in the wall, there is a pull from the current to stay connected. That current runs through us, and those who remain attached to devices feel disconnected and lost without that current until they take the time to heal from it. Time away from this unbalancing current allows us to begin to rebalance and heal. With that healing comes a clear mind and new energy. We must help each other put down the devices and let nature speak to us, to interface with each other in real time, alive, connected, and not through an electrical wave. Can you do yoga with your phone? Probably not. You wouldn't gain any of the benefits if you had your phone going while you were trying to do yoga. This is where the old light workers come in. We must help others see how important the outer connectivity is to physically interfacing with humans and nature. The old ones are more likely to let go of the phone because we were not embedded with it as children. It's our responsibility to teach the young what balance is because many are growing up without it. To turn this corner, balance is the most important element. These three factors: one, the psychology of design, or as I call it, the art of activating addiction. Two, the breaking of norms with the conscious choice to monetize fear through lies and conspiracy theories. And three, the electrical waves imbalancing human organisms are the main underlying influences that create the fears and depression, which has ranked the United States as number 2 in the world for depression, according to the World Health Organization. In today's world, the US ranks number 10 for suicide as the cause of death, and number 2 for suicide as the cause of death in young people ages 10 through 34. We must step beyond fear and depression as part of the activation of this new consciousness. It's in our hands, the light workers on this planet, to raise the vibrations, activate awareness, and help heal the pain while making truth visible. The fourth principle of Unitarian Universalists is a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. My simple version of this principle is we must each be responsible, do our homework, and find the truth. To listen to any source without understanding where the information comes from is to trust blindly. It is a terrible karmic crime to mislead another, no less to mislead millions of people for the purpose of making money. So it is our personal responsibility to not pass on false information. If we give our trust to someone, we should have done our homework to assure that trust is based on truth. Reverend Paige Getty, author of the 7 Principles in Word and Worship, refers to the fourth principle and states, quote, "This privilege calls us not to be isolated and self-centered, believing that our single perspective trumps all others, but rather to be humble, to be open to the great mysteries of truth and meaning that life offers. And those mysteries may speak to us through our own intuition and conflict, nature, and relationships." The word conflict flies off the page at me. Where we are is in a state of national and international conflict. Thus, this principle is supremely active in our world right now. We must do our homework to responsibly find truth. It is our privilege to listen, to hear, and acknowledge the changes that will come through the chaos and conflict we're witnessing and feeling. We must help others understand it so they stop staring at all that is missing and enter the world of wonder to view the miracles that are happening. This is a key: wonder. Wonder, defined by Webster, is an amazing event or a miracle. As adults, we've witnessed wonder on the face of a child as they discover something new, such as the first time they see a seed that has planted and now erupts from the soil, or the first time they see someone blow a huge soap bubble, or most any time any of us, young or old, see a rainbow or a shooting star. We stand mesmerized, amazed, our minds suspended for a moment, witnessing something incredible, and it fills us with a sense of wonder. In these moments, our entire being, physical, emotional, mental, and causal, vibrate at a higher frequency. The entire auric field around our bodies fills with light, and we actually feel physically lighter. Wonder takes us to the high end of the harmonic scale, a place where fear and depression cannot exist. It is up to us to activate wonder in our daily lives, thus bringing up our vibration, adding to our joy, and helping to balance the world at large. Wonder is always available. It surrounds us in the magic of nature itself. With every bloom, every snowflake, every water droplet that sparkles in the grass like diamonds, wonder is in the things we take for granted. A tub filled with water and bubbles, a clean set of clothes, a meal of our favorite food, and the caress of an animal or human we love. Wonder is not just at our doorstep. It is everywhere if we choose to look for it. We are such lucky people. If you're listening to my voice, you are one of the lucky ones, free to listen, free to consider the possibilities of our world, free to think, take action, and make change. Though I have only spoken about where we are, I have done so to set a basis from which you can take action and begin to visualize where we are going. It is said, the dark night of soul is long, but once we step into the light again, we realize how grateful we are to have made the journey. This journey, which we are all in right now, is the one we wrote together, you and I and all in this world of creation. Though there is no recorded history of us taking this journey before on the planet that we can see, we've taken it. We are prepared for it. We have all the tools to make it through. Most importantly, we have each other. Each one a piece of the puzzle that activates the light to transform the consciousness of our world. We have the tools. So please take time to see the wonder around you. Know that all the lies and evil that appear on the screen must be seen in order to be diminished. Evil in its many forms has operated in the darkness for a very long time, but is now being made visible so we can take action to transform it. We're not just ordinary people. Stop looking in the mirror and start looking at the light that pours from your hands. Feel the angels, ancestors, and guides that surround you, beckoning you with love to keep going. You are grand. You are courageous. You are so much more than just a human being. Feel the wonder in this. You are magnificent. And the only limitation that can hold you is fear. So what do you really have to lose? Choose to lose fear and depression by participating in wonder. I pray you'll join me